Here's an update on striper fishing in the canal by East End Eddie Doherty, a retired Massachusetts court clerk magistrate appointed by the late Governor A. Paul Cellucci, author of 7 Miles After Sundown about surf casting the Cape Cod Canal for striped bass.
Welcome to another edition of the Canal Fishing Report. It's a beautiful day here on the Cape Cod Canal. We got a west dropping tide behind us here. Weather has been really good in September for the most part, but there are some days when it was so humid and hot. I mean, it felt more like August. There was one day when it was so hot, I was perspiring like Jethro Bodine during a math test. It was, something you don't expect in September. And but there's still a lot of bait in the canal. There's a lot of silversides, and the other day I was trying to match the hatch with the silversides by using a Hopkins No Equal, which is silver and kind of looks like that. It might be a little bigger than a silverside, but it was good enough. And I hooked into a bluefish. It was only like 25 inches, but it never ceases to amaze me how even a small bluefish can fight like an 18-pound striper. I've been catching them all my life, and I still am amazed at what they can do. But I also caught 3 black sea bass with that same lure. So it's been a tough year for fishing, but September is turning out to be better. September was a good month, especially towards the middle and the end. A lot of guys have caught some nice fish, and John Sea Dog Schmidt caught some fish. Legendary surf caster Bo McKinnon started September with 7 striped bass that tipped the scale at 15 to 19 pounds with a Wally's parrot colored pencil and a few more with a bone colored SP minnow. And that Wally's parrot colored pencil is absolute proof that you don't always have to match the hatch, because parrot color is like something tropical you'd find in Florida in baitfish. There's nothing swimming through the canal that's parrot colored, but obviously Bull had good success with that, and other guys have too. And he finished the month of September with 17 more striped bass up to 21 pounds, 10 more bluefish, and well over 20 bonito, as we call them, bones. Joe Green Gloves Monahan caught a half dozen striped bass up to 38 inches on a striped gear Shaddy Daddy. And Everyday Al Mazzico caught a 40-inch striped bass on a pink spro bucktail. Glenn Lucky Cigar Lindsay, a great guy, he had a good month with a 39-inch striper and 2 38-inch striped bass and 5 bonito. And he also caught a slot for the grill with pink Shaddy Daddies and white Savage Sand Deals. Topwater Johnny Correa was fishing next to me one day. He caught 2 bluefish on a Super Strike popper, and I caught a blue on a white guppy Jobo Jr. Excuse me. Ben, the potato manager Sivanen, was prospecting the bottom and picked up a fluke and a 17-inch black sea bass, which was good for the table. And that was before the season ended. Actually, the three black sea bass that I caught were right after September 1st. So as I put each one of them back in the water, I said, "Where were you during open season?" But and the Ben Sivanen's bonito that he caught was a nice fish. It was he caught on a hoagie white epoxy jig. Kun Tang, who comes from upstate New York and stays with his wife Kathy at the Bourne Scenic Park every year for a couple of months, he found a crab under a rock, which isn't hard to do, but he took the crab and he put it on his circle hook and put it in the water, and he caught a tautog for dinner that was 20 inches long. That's a nice size tautog out of the canal. Adirondack Jim Crome, who usually fishes with real bait, this day decided to use a crippled herring, and he caught a 40-inch striped bass on a breaking tide. And one of the greatest guys in the canal, Tony McCann, he'd do anything for you. He had a homemade 4-ounce white bucktail. He was bouncing off the bottom, and he caught a 48-inch striped bass. That's a big fish. So congratulations to Tony. Rob Fish Sticks Pisa caught a slot, a 34-inch, and a bluefish. Then then he caught 5 more striped bass, were 38 to 42 inches on a striper gear, 5.5-ounce black and white striped Shaddy Daddy. And just to refresh anybody's memory, anybody who doesn't know, one of the fish he caught was a slot. A slot is 28 inches to less than 31 inches. That's a keeper nowadays. So Fish Sticks is a great guy. We call him Fish Sticks because he's not only a great fisherman, but he's a drummer. So his nickname is Fish Sticks. And Truckin' Carlos Duart caught a 39-inch with a small green deadly dick, and he was fishing on the state pier. I don't always give away fishing spots. Some guys are more sensitive about that than others, but Truckin' Carlos gave me a nice photo of this fish, and when you see the photo you can tell where it is. It's right in the state pier. And there's an interesting way that they catch fish there, an interesting procedure that Chuck Coca-Cola Kid Franks told me about a couple of years ago, and this is the same thing that Truckin' Carlos used. When the state pier kind of sticks out into the canal, as most of you probably know, and so it's high. You're high up in the air. It would be hard to bring that fish up. They'd probably break the line. So what they do is they have this big net, and the opening of the net is held open with a aluminum frame, and they have a rope on the end of it, of the handle. And so when the fisherman gets the fish in close, another guy will drop the net in the water, down tide from the fish. And then what happens is when they get close, the fisherman will release a little line, and then that will allow the current to bring the fish right into the net. And then the guy just just pulls the rope up, and it's kind of an interesting procedure. And I think it was only developed a few years ago, but that's what Carlos did. So just to mention a few things that have happened, Canal Day was a great success. They had booths, food trucks, and entertainment, including Ayla Brown, who's a great singer. Her dad is former Senator Scott Brown, who's a friend of mine, because I used to work in Rentham, and that family is from Rentham. And she was kind enough to sing at one of my Law Day ceremonies. So she sang the national anthem. She's a great singer, and she was very nice to my grandchildren that day at the Buzzards Bay Park. And Marie Oliva and her staff from the Cape Cod Region Chamber of Commerce do a great job every time for that, and this year was also a great success. So I was in the parking lot. I was putting my gear in my car. I'd finished fishing, and I didn't catch anything. And Steve Murray comes along. He's a great fisherman. And Steve comes along, and you may have seen his wife Marie. She used to roller skate up and down the canal. Now she uses a bike. But Steve asked me if I caught anything. I said, no, but that could all change tomorrow, Steve. And he looked at me and says, it could change in an hour. And he's right. That's the way it is on the canal. So I came home from fishing one day, and my wife, Jado, said, how was the fishing? But what she didn't know was that day, one of the eyeballs fell out of one of my lures. And it's a very realistic lure, and so the eyeball fell out. And so she said, how was fishing? I said, well, I lost an eyeball. She said, what? Oh my God! No, it wasn't me. But and there was a 4-foot shark spotted in the West End the other day. Jeff Twist, the longtime public relations director for the Boston Celtics, is a great guy. He was very helpful to me when I was writing my second book. And he told a great story in the Globe the other day about John Havlicek, the great Boston Celtic. And the Celtics used to hold their training camp at the Massachusetts Maritime Academy on the west end of the canal, and they did that for quite a few years, I think. But this year they were there. The year I'm talking about, they were at the Mass Maritime, and there was a reporter that couldn't find John Havlicek. I guess he wanted to interview Havlicek, but Jeff Twist found him outside. He was on the banks of the Cape Cod Canal fishing, because Havlicek loves to fish, and he fished almost every day of that training camp. So he may have been addicted to striped bass fishing like so many of the rest of us. So just a history lesson. Stan Gibbs, a great fisherman who founded the Gibbs Lure Company, which is still in business in Cumberland, Rhode Island. He had a workshop right on the canal where he tested lures and then went back to the shop, had a lathe there, and would make adjustments and modifications to the lures. And they actually, there's a street named after him, right kind of near the Sagamore Bridge, and so he was born in 1914, which is the same year the canal opened for boat traffic. So Stan Gibbs and the Cape Cod Canal kind of made each other famous. And Cleveland Ledge, which is a famous spot 8 miles southwest of the entrance to the Cape Cod Canal, was named for President Grover Cleveland. And the president fished in that area frequently, and he had a home, I think, on the Cape side towards the west end there, somewhere over there. So I saw one of his fishing reels in a museum one time. He was quite a fisherman. So I frequent Gray Gables Market whenever I fish on the Cape side, and I always got a breakfast sandwich there. It's a great place, but they sell everything there. And while I was waiting for my breakfast sandwich many times, I'm looking at the display case, and they have all these beautiful steaks in there. One of them is a tomahawk steak that's huge, and it's aptly named. It looks like a tomahawk, and you know, I've always wanted to get one, and I go in there and I can hear that steak calling my name. And so one day recently I finally ordered a tomahawk steak, and Russ Salamone is a great guy. He owns the place and very personable owner and well known in the community. So he knows I'm a fisherman, and so many fishermen go into that place. So when I ordered the steak, Russ said, you know, this is a good steak, Eddie, but you can't put it on the Indian line or in a fish hook, you know. So there's a sign in the parking lot of the State Fish Pier on the mainland side, kind of towards the east end, and it says veteran plate parking only, thank you for your service. Has a nice picture of an American flag on there, and I just thought that was great. So I hadn't seen it before, so before this season, so I called and I spoke to somebody from DCR, Wilker Hersey, who's a community relations specialist, and he told me that they had installed it over the winter. And I just think that's terrific. You know, we got to do what we can for our veterans, and that's just a little thank you from us to them, that a parking space is reserved. And I was speaking to a group at the Braintree Town Hall, and they have a very similar sign there. And it's the only time I've ever seen that before. I think they ought to be in every municipal parking lot in America, because without the brave acts of those great soldiers, we couldn't live freely in the greatest country in the face of the earth. So whenever you can help a veteran, do what you can. So Harold Skelton, the founder of Fishing for the Mission 22 tournament, he has a Black Sea bass tournament every year at the end of May, and so the Atlantic Division of Marine Fisheries released 22 Black Sea bass into Buzzards Bay on May 27th, just before his tournament, and these are tagged fish. So he has a award ceremony at Buzzards Bay Park, where the railroad bridge is, after the tournament, and if you catch one of those 22 fish that are tagged, you win a $1,000 prize. But anyway, he learned that and you know, just to refresh everybody's memory, it's Fishing for the Mission 22, and that number 22 is a number of veterans who unfortunately take their life every year in our country. So Harold does what he can to help them, and he does a magnificent job. He's just a solid guy, really, really good guy. And but anyway, they one of those fish, one of those tagged fish, those 22 tagged fish, was caught on August 15th, 2.5 months after the tournament. They put them in the water May 27th, and then they had the tournament that weekend. So 2.5 months later, that fish was caught, and that fish swam an awful long way in 2.5 months. The fish was caught by a fisherman in New Jersey. So that fish worked hard to go down south. So my tip of the month is that when you buy a surface plug, some kind of a pencil usually, usually it has treble hooks that are covered with tubes. They have the points of the hook covered with these plastic tubes for safety reasons. Of course, you have to take those off before you fish. And a lot of guys just pull them straight off, and what happens is the barb from the hook sticks into the plastic, and it's hard to get off. So the best way to take them off is, as you're pulling it, slowly, just turn it with your fingers. And if it turns as it's coming off, chances are that it won't stick. So until next time, catch a big one.
Want your nice canal catch mentioned? Email the details to eastendeddie789@yahoo.com.